Well, can we begin our proceedings and our day? My name is Don DeBatz, and I'm associated with the Center for the United States and Asia Policy Studies. And you might think, as observers and visitors, that it would be easy to launch something at a university called Flinders, and with a ship as its logo, that we could do a launch pretty easily. It turns out to be otherwise. That QSAPS happened and that this particular ship is launched came about only because of the extremely hard work of a surprisingly small number of people, not all of whom are here today. I would like to thank in particular Professor Peter Edwards, who isn't, and Dr. Nicole Beaumont, who is. Both provided the inspiration and encouragement that kept this ship under construction, even as others, a moment of silence, sought other ends. To make this work, we had Marianne Kelton, Richard Lever, and Malcolm Cook, who laid down, to keep the ship metaphor, the keel and the ribs, constructing a ship that the Vice Chancellor, Michael Barber, and the Executive Dean, Phyllis Tharano, were willing to back with their money. Terry Buss at Carnegie Mellon has added his support in the form of a continuing internship program at QSAPS, which gave us the two people who you've met today already, Kong and Quinn. Defense SA will be a significant partner to this organization, and we hope also DSTO will. The U.S. Consulate in Melbourne, with its Memorandum of Understanding, Mike Linsky at the U.S. Embassy in Canberra, with the opportunity to trial a program for the construction of a vast new information system to support QSAPS. Amanda Nixon and Ian McBain in the Flinders Library, who have supported our electronic publication series of working papers, articles, and books. Most recently, Scott Ostler and the South Australian State Government have seen in QSAPS an asset in advancing the state's education ambitions. These are some of the people and the institutions that have made this enterprise possible and vastly enhanced its capacity. Setting this ship afloat, however, that was the construction phase, setting the ship afloat has come down very significantly to Alison Lehman, who's done so much that we think she must have been working with us for years, but in fact it's only been a couple of months. She's been working with the Carnegie Mellon interns, and together they've crafted for us in kind of record speed trials a website, a QSAPS brochure, which you've got, looking very, very nice, and of course this conference. So it's a great pleasure to have built this thing. Quite how the ship sails is entirely unclear, but I'd like to think we've got a sturdy boat, a good crew, and some bright ideas that will propel QSAPS on a successful course. We already know that we have helped down the course in Michael Barr and his support for our publication outcomes. So for all those people who made this creation possible and this launch possible, who are committed to keeping QSAPS shipshape and sailing well into the future, I'd like to say my own personal thank you. And to add to this, we have now a video presentation, a talk from Australia's ambassador to the United States, Ambassador Kim Beazley.
Well, life is never dull for an Australian ambassador in Washington, but sometimes the distance between Australia and the United States can be a bit testing, and it is on this occasion, because there is nothing I'd like better than to be with my old friend Don DeBatz and all of you at Flinders University at this, which I think is one of the first conferences organised by the Centre for US and Asia Pacific Studies, discussing themes and issues of critical importance to Australia. One of the things I look forward to when I finally finish up here is the opportunity to come over and participate in these sorts of seminars, based on an experience of a few years here in the US. The interesting thing in the 2 years I've been here is this, that more and more the United States has come to be most interested in that aspect of their dialogue with us that relates to our mutual view about the Asia-Pacific region. The essence of the change in direction of US policy, which has occurred in the Obama administration, is that it's not a new thing that in its pivot to the Asia-Pacific that the United States should be so engaged, but it's really the geographic dimension of that engagement. During the Cold War, the US was thoroughly engaged in affairs in North Asia, and it has remained that way since the end of the Cold War. What's new is the shift of American focus to the Southeast Asian area. In fact, it could be said that a more correct definition of the US pivot would not be so much a new priority assigned the Asia-Pacific region, but a new priority assigned the Indian Ocean and Pacific oceans, and American activities with allies and friends and interactions with countries on the littoral of those two great oceans. Now that's interesting given some of the maritime materials that will be discussed in the security section of the conference that you're going to be engaged in. This pivot of the United States to the region, whilst wholly generated, of course, by decisions within this US administration, nevertheless has an important Australian component. And the Americans have been engaged in the discussion of reorienting US priorities will always pay tribute to the fact that it was Australia who so regularly belled the cat with them on the need for them to comprehend the focal point of the global political system in this century. And in this century, a global political system will be, as it often has been, of course, dominated by economic relationships. And gradually, steadily, the Asia-Pacific region is emerging as the locomotive of the global economy. So the studies that you're doing, the conferences in which you're engaging, the purposes now established for this new centre, hopefully, and I'm confident they will be, hopefully will be at the cutting edge of the development of policy, at least in our country, in Australia, if not more broadly, over the course of the next few years and decades. Sorry again that I can't be with you. Congratulations again, Don, getting together such a good program. Probably see you next when you're over, as you often have been, with that excellent program of interns that you organise at the US Congress and have been running very effectively for the last 14 years.
It is very nice to have support of that kind for our ambitions. Now I just have two more things. I have housekeeping issues to tell you about. So if you have to get out of here, you get out of here the way you got in, through the door, which is perhaps not a surprise. The restrooms are just out there. And the breaks that we'll have between sessions and lunch will be down the second set of stairs, the rather more old-fashioned and elegant set of stairs. So that's where we'll have our breaks. We're going to try to keep right to time. The chairs of each session have been armed and are ready to inflict grievous harm on those who go over time, and so we defer to their wisdom and good aim. So I think with that, I'll be very pleased to introduce Professor Malcolm Cook, who will be the chair of the first session.